What's it like to suddenly discover a secret that's been kept from you for a long time? 1. When I was in elementary school, my family lived on the 6th floor of an apartment building. Every time, my dad would challenge me to a race to see who could get to the top first. No matter how hard my dad tried, he never beat me. I was always the first one up and would boast about how fast I was. My dad would pretend to be disappointed. It wasn't until later that I found out he just didn't want to carry me up the stairs. 2. My mom is a strong woman, but she can't cook. One year during Chinese New Year's Eve, due to various circumstances, it was just my mom, my 6-year-old self, and my 2-year-old brother at home. My mom made us some noodles, and they looked and tasted amazing. She bragged that she could make all kinds of delicious food but was just too busy to cook most of the time. Years later, I suddenly realized that those noodles were just instant noodles with some added vegetables and tomatoes. 3. My brother and I used to fight all the time when we were kids. After every fight, my mom would pull me aside and angrily say, "Don't be upset, I'm going to go yell at your brother." I'd always feel satisfied and even a bit guilty, so I'd make up with my brother afterward. But this year, when I asked my brother to teach me how to ski, and he refused, I got really upset and we had a big argument. I called my mom to complain, and she assured me she would talk to him. Not long after, my brother came over and told me to get ready for a skiing lesson that night. I was shocked and couldn't understand how my mom had convinced him, but I was still angry and refused to learn. My brother said, "Fine, I didn't want to teach you anyway." We started arguing again, and I finally snapped, "Think about whether you're being reasonable, and then think about how mom yelled at you." My brother looked surprised and, after a long pause, said, "Mom never yelled at me. She always told me, 'Your sister is a bit slow, so let's just give in to her.'" 4. There was a college student who always kept a mouthful of water while taking a shower. His roommate noticed this strange habit and asked him why he did it. The student said that his mom had told him to do this since he was a kid because it supposedly helped prevent colds. His roommate, who had some basic knowledge of biology, was baffled and thought this was nonsense and his singing was terrible. To stop the noise, she told him to keep water in his mouth, and he believed it would prevent colds. 5. My parents were extremely controlling and didn't trust me at all. Their distrust was so extreme that it became almost abnormal. For example, even after I had a child of my own, they would still call me every hour when I was out shopping. If I was going to meet a client, my dad would go on, reminding me to wash my hair in advance, wear clothes, eat lunch, drink water, and use the restroom. It was absurd. Did they think I would show up naked to a meeting or go to the bathroom in the middle of the street? Later, I found out that I have cerebral palsy. One day, I was helping a mother write a fundraising post for her child with cerebral palsy, and I remarked on how many children seem to have the condition these days. My mom blurted out, "Cerebral palsy isn't a big deal. It depends on the severity. Some people just end up short and walk funny but can live a normal life." My mom is barely literate, so hearing her say something like that shocked me. Most people I know confuse cerebral palsy with Down syndrome, thinking the former is a form of mental retardation, while they believe the latter is a physical disability. That's when I found out that I have cerebral palsy. My mom gave birth to me at home with the help of a midwife. During labor, complications arose, and they had to rush me to the county hospital through a snowstorm. But the county hospital couldn't handle it because I needed a C-section, so they took me to a city hospital. By the time I was born, I was purple and had to be put in an incubator. This was nearly 30 years ago. I didn't walk or talk until I was 3, and my responses were extremely slow. So I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Of course, there weren't any rehabilitation options back then, so I was just raised as I was. In elementary school, while other kids were in class, I was crawling around the floor. But somehow, I still managed to get into college. I used to think my parents were just overprotective, but now I realize they saw me as someone with cerebral palsy. 6. When I was little, I loved a certain type of wide, flat noodles. I would always ask my mom to cook them in chicken broth, and they tasted amazing. But one day, my mom told me that the noodles had been discontinued, and I never had them again. Many years